GM, GA, GE, wherever you may be today on the Lucky Trader Lounge. Me and Tyler are going to talk some NFTs with you guys. Since Monday when we last spoke, I think people are in a little better spirits as far as just NFTs go. Some of that has to do with what we talked about on Monday, where the geopolitical landscape seems a little happier, more positive after that Yellen post that got leaked, and just in general, like some of these NFTs, as we'll talk about, have been back in the green. So it seems like we're doing a little better. How's your week been going?
It's good. No, I think you nailed it. NFTs are fun again. It was down only, blood in the streets for what feels like weeks and months now. I know it wasn't that long, but some things are moving. There's green on the board. There was some good sentiment. It's not just rug pulls and cash grabs. So it's been a good week.
Yeah. And so RA he brought up, he got his juice, he got the rat and the pigeon, and he's looking to get the dog in the next in a gang. So it sounds like he got part of the gutter cat drop, which obviously that was in the title. It's in the thumbnail. So let's start talking about this gutter juice. So Gutter Cat Gang, they came out with this drop where they had 16,000, which was 4,000 of each of their 4 cat, dog, pigeon, and rat species. And these juices, so they have the Dutch auction. It started at 0.9 ETH, went down all the way to 0.1. I think some of the action started around like 0.15, but most people, I'd say probably 90% plus, got in at the 0.1 price point. And now the floor of all of them are sitting above that, and the cats have gotten pretty high. So a lot of people are looking at basically 2x what they paid right now. And they also airdropped 12,000 to the current Gutter Gang holders. So there's 28,000 total supply. So what's your initial take on the Gutter Juice?
I love it. It's been an overwhelming success. So I think there is a decent amount to unpack here. So I think the supply of 28,000, I think, might have spooked a few people off right away. But the idea was to expand the community to give a lower cost entry point, because leading up to this, gutter cats were like 4.5 ETH. The pigeons, rats were like 1.5. So it was still like $4,000 to get into the community. A lot of people were priced out. And I think they achieved their goal. A lot of new buyers who weren't previously in the GCG ecosystem got in through this process. And it's one of those that's been, I've been combing Twitter, and this is what I do. I grind it all day. I haven't seen very much negative posts about this. Like, everyone is overwhelmingly positive. It was a great price point at 0.1 ETH. Say what you want about the deduction. RIP to anyone who paid 0.8 or 0.9, and that was silly on the gun. It flew off the shelves at 0.1. I want to say it was just a matter of minutes that we went from a few hundred to the 16,000 sellout. And then a lot of people missed it because of how fast it went. And then we started seeing the floor march up. There was some speculation on, okay, now there's 12,000 more coming from the airdrop. Is it going to crash it? And it didn't. And the floor held, and then it's been slowly marching up. So I think we can call it a small win. We're taking our small wins right now in this macro NFT market. So I'm happy. I think anyone who minted or got in early has been pretty happy so far.
Yeah, I minted some of these. I did get a cat, but I already sold it, and not really kicking myself too much, because like you said, some of these little wins are good right now. And my thought process was cats are going to be the highest end of these, and I was able to get my initial buyback in back. So the ones that I have, I can, if those get to a 1 ETH floor or something, I can watch that ride go up. And right now they look pretty comfortable as far as around this 0.2 range. I think we had talked like on the side and in DMs about we thought the 0.25, 0.3 is probably about where it would settle, at least maybe longer term. But yeah, not trying to say this is the type of thing that's going to be a 5 ETH floor. There's 28,000 of them, but there has never really been too many listed, which I think is pretty bullish. People want to see what this is all about. They're either planning on holding for the reveal. It's kind of a double reveal in these, where revealing the species created another little uptick in just activity in general, because most of the others are about the same, but then the cats have always been 2 or 3x the others, and then the dogs have been about 1.5 times what the pigeon and rats are. So generally speaking, it seems like, I don't know. Do you think there should be this discrepancy that's that big? The pigeons seem to be at the floor, which I'm not saying is a bad thing, because when you look at the actual gutter pigeon collection, is cheaper, and the dogs have been kind of the second priced since they came out.
Yeah, it's definitely pigeons at the bottom, then rats, and they're pretty close. And then let's see, that was checking on the dogs. Dogs are 0.3. Yeah, so you're right.
Yeah.
You nailed it. 50% above. I did a double take when I saw the number listed. 870 out of 28,000. That's like 2.7%. That's an absurdly low number.
I don't think I've seen over 1,000. Even when it was only 60 before the airdrop, there wasn't. And then even after the airdrop of 12,000 more, it's still under 1,000.
Before we go on, I want to talk a little bit about the mechanics for folks who may not be aware. So there's two things you can do with the Gutter Juice. So if you own a cat, a pigeon, dog, or rat, then you can use it to essentially mutate your existing NFT, and then you'll get a clone. For those who don't own the NFTs, which is going to be a huge percent of this new group who bought in, you can essentially just roll the dice, and you're going to get a random clone mutant, essentially, of your type. So if you've got a pigeon, you're going to get a random pigeon that won't be tied to anything. So that's how the dynamic is going to work. It's a little bit TBD on timeline, and I'm sitting here super bullish. I think that is the risk right now in the short term, is when the actual reveal is going to happen. If it drags out, are they going to be able to maintain attention and hype for a few weeks? And I think that's why we've seen some sell off. And I've seen a lot of comparison to Cool Cats and Cool Pets, right? And this is eventually going to be a part of the Gutter Cat game ecosystem, and people who aren't sure maybe that dev team is going to be able to execute on that. Similar to how Cool Cat's team has fallen down. But to me, it's not a perfect comparison because of the different price entry points. I mean, people who entered at 0.1 have so much less downside than someone who bought a pet, on secondary for 1 to 1.5 ETH. So I think that's why we'll see more of a holdership, through any potential turmoil. So that's my view. But definitely want to present both sides.
And then it's a good point that you made, because I believe the numbers around, it's going to end up being, at most, it's technically 42%, because it's the 12,000 of them that can be someone's actual Gutter NFT. I'm not sure the exact number of people that hold both or anything like that. Like, I would expect it to be less than 12,000 of them that come from one of those NFTs. So the thing with that is, when we go to the species coming out, there's a lot of people that maybe, as you said, like, don't want to buy one of these NFTs for 1.4 Ethereum, but now you can get for 0.18, you can end up getting one of these gutter pigeons. In a way, you're getting the same item. So do you think that hurts the current owners of the original set in that way? Because what if the clones come out and they just look cooler than the original ones,
Yeah, I mean, so there's a chance that we see some balancing where, the OGs come down and these come up, but I think they did a pretty thoughtful approach here. And this is on one of their welcome posts. And I've got the part highlighted here. There's going to be different utility. They're actively trying to expand the community, but they say the Gutter Clones members won't receive the same full benefits as the OG tiers. So there's going to be some select merchandise drops, Metaverse, IRL, P2E, but won't necessarily have the same access to future airdrops or utility. But they do say there might be a chance to upgrade your clone using their gang token. So I think that's how they're couching that a bit. But, we'll see. And we've seen how MAYC and BAYC have kind of come together over time. And now they're both viewed, pretty equally as in the community, I would say at this point, with a little bit of tieredness for sure. That could potentially happen here. I think that the founders would call that a win, right? To get thousands more entrants into the community who are hold and kind of take pride in the project.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting way to look at it, where it's almost like you're going to have to provide the OGs with a little more value for it being the OG one. Obviously going to depend on what you're getting, and it's the ability to have that pre-reveal and the potential of you could end up getting a really cool one that's very rare, and it's a new like rare lotto to it, and we don't know what the rarities are going to be like compared to what the original collection was. But obviously you're going from 3,000, say cats, right? You're going from 3,000 to now 7,000 more of them. So now they're going to have 10,000 of each of these species. Now all of a sudden there's all of this in the ecosystem. Obviously it's still a low price, but they're going to have to provide that value back to people, because once this becomes 4 collections of 10K by each of these species, then like all of a sudden you went from a very tiny collection to now more of a massive collection.
Absolutely. I think Gary Vee said this, NFTs don't have a supply problem, they have a demand problem.
Yeah.
And that's so spot on. I applaud the high volume collections. That's the way we're going to expand. That's the way we're going to move forward in the mainstream ownership and getting more people onboarded through lower price entry expansions like this. But the key to making it successful is to keep that demand. Right now, there's plenty of demand. So they've done a good job cultivating that. And clearly a lot more people wanted to enter this project than I would have said, a few weeks ago, myself included. I'll say, personally, like I've got 20 of these, so none of this is financial advice, DYOR. A month ago, was I itching to get into GCG? I don't know that I'd say I was, but I thought this drop was really cool. And now I'm pretty excited to join the fam.
Gutter Cats have I want to say they have a close place in my heart over long term. They were one of my first, like, okay, I'm going all in for this mint, basically. And it was a weird minting that day in general. But I held it a long way. It was one of my longer holds, like as they wrote up. And so, I've been a part of the Gutter Cats. They do have a pretty strong community as it was, but it was a very tight knit community when there was only 5,000 people. So now that there is a larger ecosystem for these people to be a part of, it'll be interesting to see how that changes things. But I think it's pretty bullish on how this has worked. I think adding all of this supply at the lower cost, right? I think that's, as Spartan's saying in chat, he thinks it is pretty brilliant. Saying they were such a small community, now they have a ton more, and they were able to add all this capital. So they're probably able to do a lot more now that they dropped all this and added the whatever it was, 0.1 1600 ETH. Yeah, which they're going to be able to do a lot if they're trying to do stuff with these games. And it's a good way to do the funding round. And it's something different than we've really seen some of these other projects do, and their ability, because they started so much smaller.
I like it. Yeah. Super bullish. I'm excited to see how this one unfolds.
Cool. Then the next thing that I want to talk about was a big one yesterday. Cyberbrokers are pretty much just the talk of the town in NFTs. There are some big moves yesterday. I think it went from in the twos, and it went up from, I'm not sure where it really started from, but one of the collectors started some big sweeps. I think he ended up with around 200 of them, and pretty much brought the floor from 2 up to 5 at one point. It's a pretty cool little project. It's from Josie, who, female-led project artist. She's pretty big in NFT space. Has been around for a while. Has done a lot of different interviews with other projects and people. So there are a lot of people that have been looking for this project to drop, and it seems like the community is really coming behind it.
Yeah, and it's been wild to watch how fast this has unfolded, and it's definitely a top, if not the top story of the week. 16,000 ETH traded since mint last Friday. You're rounding out the 7 days. That's a significant number, especially in the low liquidity market that we're in right now. We're only doing 50 million a day. Actually, I did the math. 20% of NFT volume on OpenSea was Cyberbrokers yesterday, which is an absurd number. I don't know that I've ever seen that high of a percent from a single project. The floor popped 80% to your note. It was around 2.2, I want to say, when I checked in in the morning, and then at the end of the day into the mid fours. The sweep was wild. I heard rumors that it was a 1,000 ETH sweep.
Yeah, I think it was somewhere around there.
And that's one of the biggest that I can ever remember.
Yeah, outside of buying high-end stuff, that's been over 1,000. Because I know there have been people that say minted. There was that 1,000 minted for the ON ones. I think the guy minted 1,000 of them. But yeah, not like we're already at a 2 ETH floor. Let's double it at that point. Like it usually happens sub 1 when there's big sweeps like that. So it was kind of cool to see. I know the Atomic, the Atom Bomb Squad had one day where there was a ton of sweeps like that, where I think the guy got about 200 of the items, but that was at a 0.5 floor. So it's definitely something that we haven't really seen. And I think it's starting to sort of solidify this Cyberbrokers collection as potentially one of the big winners of this semi bear market.
Yeah, I mean, I'm starting to see growing chatter that this is the next blue chip. More threads breaking it down. I thought it might make sense to kind of go through one of these for folks who may not be as familiar. So this is a thread from NFTI, or they break down the team, the NFT, and some of the lore. So you touched on the team a little bit. So Josie Bellini, she's the artist, NFT OG behind all of this. Her artwork commanded, I think, an 80th floor, right, ahead of this drop. So that's one of the reasons why we were both watching this one and thought it could do well.
And I think she's had a few pieces that has sold in over 100 ETH as well. So pretty successful from the art NFT side.
Absolutely. And she's got ties back to the Neon District as well, I want to say. And then they go on to talk about Ben Cyber Bourgeois, who apparently is a top-notch smart contract and game dev. So that they've got the artist and the founder, and they've got a top-notch dev behind the team, supposedly as well. So those are always two nice, check marks to cross off there and go down the list. Then, the artwork, it's on chain. I think the art itself, people have responded pretty well to. For the most part. It's definitely more unique than your standard headshots. It's got the full body. I think as someone pointed out, they've got knees. Not many PFP projects actually show the individual's knees and whatnot.
And it's like the futuristic style to it.
Yeah, and I think that's a part of the lore, which is the last part of this thread. The metaverse that they're building and trying to expand on here. I think they've got a little bit TLDR here. So a couple centuries ago, Arctic shells collapsed, triggered modern ice age. The first 10,000 volunteers ready to pave the way were called Cyberbrokers. Everything went wrong. 2 centuries later, a complacent human race copes with a great awakening. It's a paradigm lost. And there's different codes about this story kind of in these characters. So that's just a quick overview. It seems like a lot of the OG NFT collectors have started to rally behind this one a bit, and man, it's hard to argue with the success it's had here in just 7 days.
Yeah, that's what's also crazy about it is it's was it last Thursday when we originally were debating on talking about it, or maybe it was on the
Just for last
Monday
Monday's
stream.
show, yeah.
Yeah, that was one where we were like, oh, we could talk about this one or not, and I don't think we ended up getting to it, but yeah, it's only like a week old and it's already got this 4th floor, but it seems like there's a lot of the holders are more of that diamond hands and have been around NFTs for a while. Like there's a lot more people involved on this that I think I'm bullish on that side of. I compare it to kind of the doodles as far as like the people who are buying into it and the team associated with it are people that have been around the NFT space for a little bit. There were people that talked about her being one of the Avstar artists, but I think it was more like she was on the list and ended up not doing it, and that was like the whole story. But so she's just been around for a while, and yeah, it's cool to see the success of this so far.
Yeah, so I think just to round out our discussion, we like to play both the bull case and the bear case for these. I
Yeah.
think we both outlined the bull case and why people like these, and certainly I like the product as well. A couple of risks that I see. One, they don't make great PFPs, so they're a little zoomed out. Like I've seen folks who have these like in Discord. I haven't really seen a whole lot of Twitter PFPs yet for
Yeah.
this project, which to me is also a bit of a red flag. We've seen products that rally behind big artists and good teams like Capsules, but when you don't see that PFP enough, it kind of raises a question for me of the longevity. And then
Yeah.
everyone's talking about the OG collectors in the user base or the community as a bull sign. I can also point out the bear case for that. And typically those holders aren't ones who are going to be active in the community, and they're not really going to be brand ambassadors. Like sure, they'll tout their buys early on, but they're working on other things. They're holding dozens of projects. They're not going to be the ones that are on the ground roots helping your community grow. So
Yeah.
I haven't seen the community rally around this just yet. So I think I'm kind of personally waiting for that to flush out a bit. And certainly it's a much riskier entry point here at 4.4
Right.
than it was. At 0.3, it's a slam dunk. Even in the ones and twos right now, it's a little bit of a more calculated risk.
Yeah. It's one of those that I could see that could quickly change too. Like a few people on Twitter hop into it, get excited about it, are posting about it, and then it goes again. The other bear case that I had on it was just more of where we're at generally right now in the just NFTs and buying into something at 4th floor after the first week. And we've talked about that in the past, especially if a lot of people that just bought in because they saw this sweep yesterday, they probably don't know much about the project and aren't too into it yet. And the other thing, which is, I mean, this is just a personal take, I guess, that I like to talk about the idea of derivatives. And this one doesn't feel like it's one that'll get derived much. I don't know if that's really any sort of take or good take, but I think that's one thing that was strong for the doodles is because that's the specific artwork and the color scheme. This all of the individual NFTs are pretty different. There would have to be like I don't know the like gas mask. There's a gas mask trait which is sort of Josie's brand, because that's one of her famous piece of art, and I don't know if this is notable enough that we're going to see the cyber or broker doodles or all these other random derivatives, because I feel like once those come up is when it's like, oh, people actually are thinking about this as like a top project, and that's just more like random thought that I had. But yeah, it is a little unique, their artwork, but and it's high end, which is nice to see.
Yeah, I think you're right on. I mean, I want to be clear. Like, this artwork is awesome. It's probably some of the
Yeah,
most intricate and well thought out PFP
and
artwork
like
that we've
small
seen.
details.
Certainly in the details. It's not going to be able to create derivatives derived from, essentially, which a lot of people say does drive value back to the primary brand, whether or not that's true. I think the leg up is still like they've got the game and the world potentially coming down the line. So if that can be built out and executed upon, of course, that's going to be what could take it to the next level.
Yeah. So this one is one we'll be checking in on. I think it's one to watch, especially through the weekend. There's a lot of, usually the weekend there's, I don't know, one or two main headlines of project movers. Maybe this one already moved and it's not going to go crazy this weekend or anything, but definitely something to keep your eye on. I'm interested to see in how it goes. And then the one that might be the candidate for more of this weekend push is this Quirkies one that has been moving a little bit as well. What's your thought on the Quirkies? This one's been out for a little longer. I believe they had it as a Dutch auction. It's now over 1 Ethereum floor, and there's only 5,000 in this collection, so I think that's helping it. And they do have somewhat of a unique looking art style to them. They have a little, I'm not sure what the correct term is, like alien. They're some sort of aliens, right? The way they have those like things popping out of their head. But yeah, they're just kind of quirky. I guess that's what they're going with, and they have the pastel colors and whatnot. So what's your thoughts on these guys?
This one kind of came out of left field for me.
Yeah,
It wasn't really on my radar. It wasn't a product that I did a deep dive on, and then I'm seeing the daily numbers, and it's just up 30 to 40% every day. And now I'm sitting here looking at it's 1.4.
yeah,
And that's Cryptode's level, essentially. So a huge run up. And then I was just looking through the activity. These have been around for a month.
yeah.
Looks like they started out around like 0.06. Looks like they marched up in early February here. Some average sales here on February 15th were 0.86. Then they kind of been up and down, chopping a bit, and now they're kind of taking off again. I guess what's been surprising about me is like I don't see anyone chatting about this. It's like it's not on my timeline. So I don't know if it's a different cohort or kind of what group is actively driving this one. But man, it looks
Which might be a bullish case in the same way. I know that they had, I don't want to say that there's FUD around it, but I think when the weather report and Dented Fields one came out, they came out both after this one, but had similar art. So I know people on Twitter were talking about, oh, there's 3 projects with the same looking art. How do I choose between them? And then I think these separated themselves as, no, these ones came out first. The other 2 are battling each other kind of like on purpose. And maybe that's where they're separating, is just the fact that they came out first with this art style. I'm not sure.
Yeah. This one just totally surprised me. I don't really have a whole lot else to say about this one right now. What are the other 2 projects that it's close to?
The weather report and then the Dented Fields.
Got it.
They had the similar show Dented Fields while you have this screen up. It's got that similar face to it.
Gotcha.
Where it's just, that circle and similar eyes to it. Like the long eyes there.
So maybe this benefited from the FUD that both Dented Fields and Weather Report kind of had with the artist drama that was going on. So
that's what I was wondering.
See that maybe that kind of propelled this a little bit.
Yeah, and I think this one has the pastel colors and like the bright colors to it. It pops a little more. To your point of the other one, these look like they'd come out as better PFPs than something like the Cyberbrokers. And they all look to have different ears, but very similar, if that makes sense. Like that whole top row, all these pretty much look different. That's, I think, something that I like to see in a lot of these projects. like how different can they look one to the next, especially when you're looking at the floor. So to me, these ones they fit that like cute meta idea and like the bright colors. So I see it. I'm not sure if this is one that I'm going to like invest in, and I have to do a little more digging into what they're planning on doing as a project.
Yeah, anytime you're above one, I want to know a little bit more about future plans, the team, and all that.
Yeah.
But congrats to holders.
Yeah, and so let's get into a little more of the macro stuff. So the volume. Let's look at the volume chart, and as we mentioned before, like the volume on OpenSea is continuing to be lower than we've seen in past weeks. I think the last 100 million day was the 25th of February.
Yep.
So since then, we haven't seen another 100 million day. As you mentioned before, we're around that 50 million now. So it's been pretty steady at that level, but it's definitely lower. And as you see in this chart, from the highs only, I don't know, a month ago, we were seeing stuff that was way more spiked than it is currently. So yeah, volume is still pretty low. And then the total sales in Ethereum and USD, I think, as we mentioned earlier about there's this geopolitical side of things, I don't think that's out of people's heads yet.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, man, it's hard looking at this March candle at 630 million. Like we're on pace for 2 billion. It's going to be the lowest month since last July, potentially, if we don't see an uptick. So don't love that. I mean, over here, we're basically stair stepping down. Last week we were coming in the $70 million range. Now we're in mid 50s. I don't know. It feels close to bottomish for me. I mean, I know, of course, everything can always go lower and how fast liquidity can come out of the market.
Yeah.
November 21, 50 million was kind of the bottom that we saw for the daily candles. And we're certainly getting close.
It's like that Christmas week is about where we're at right now.
Yeah, exactly. I think we're even a little, we're right in there. I've heard some folks speculate that we're not going to be back into an empty bull market until we're back to the $100 million a day level. I think that's a good indicator. I think for me, that's the new daily candle that, okay, we had a good day, 100 million. But I will separately say we've got some green on the board this week. So even in lower liquidity weeks here, we're seeing some positive upwards movement. So it's not just down only panic selling. We're starting to see some rallying behind some projects.
And when you see like the brokers and Quirkies, those types of projects that are coming up and being pretty green throughout the week, there's less projects minting day by day, which I think people are looking for other things to get into. And so that's where they start going back to blue chips. And I think that's what you were talking about with the green this week is some of these blue chips are back up. Obviously Cyberbrokers was something that maybe people, that's a win that they're having right now. And then they're looking to reinvest into other stuff while it's down. So
yeah, I mean, we're showing the Lucky Trader 7-day here just to give folks a few quick numbers. But I went through the top 20 today. 9 of the top 20 are green on the 7-day.
Yeah.
Top 20 by floor price for PFP projects. So I think that's a win. Like it felt like everything was literally just going down every single day. And the fact is 50% of PFPs are up on the 7-day. Those are facts. So that's good to see. We've got some projects surging in volume here, especially some of the new ones, right? Like Dippies have done okay. I think they're sitting around 0.4. The Wonder Pals, they saw a 50% uptick in volume, though the floor is down a little bit. And then the Dower Darcels have come out. They've had a decent little run in their first week here as well. So, a few new projects doing okay.
Yeah, and a little different than what we saw a couple weeks ago when we were, I don't want to say concerned, but we saw most of the volume was just new projects. Now we're seeing some people, as the bigger name projects were going down in price, some people are seeing that as an opportunity to buy. and people are getting back into those projects. The things like the Clone X, Azuki, Cool Cats, Mutinate Yacht Club is back up on the day. So there's a lot of these projects that have seen that little boost of the last couple of days, as I think, as you mentioned before, maybe some of them were going down to the bottom, and people are seeing that as an opportunity.
I think we had to call out Invisible Friends. I mean, that floor's at 7.3, 7.5 range. That's huge. Holding that up after, you know, everyone was ready to victory lap Invisible Friends going from 10 down to 2 or 0 and following that Mecha or Hape price arc. And it hasn't. And it's held up incredibly well in a much lower liquidity market. So I think that just goes to prove the strength behind that project and the people who believe in it and the holders. So I think that's a huge win.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it, where it's one of those things where it's showing that maybe it belongs. And you know, you like to see that, especially in this type of market, that between them and the brokers, like these things are still able to, if they are a good project, stand out in that way.
Totally agree.
So yeah, let's talk about VeeFriends, I guess, while we're talking about these types of things. VeeFriends has had a pretty solid week recently. Obviously, they came out with their V2 that is going to come out with another 55,000 NFTs. What do you think about this? Because it pumped a little of the book games, because that's part of what you might need to get on the list, and then also the holders themselves of the original VeeFriends.
Book games pumped. I mean, it's hard to argue VeeFriends is one of the best performing NFT projects that we've had in the last year. And Gary V is, you know, one of the most important people, founders in NFTs. I think it's pretty hard to argue that. I think from single individuals who can move markets, he's got to be up at the top of the list.
Yeah.
And as I said earlier, we don't have a supply problem. We've got a demand problem. And he is a king of driving demand. Look at his book sales. We all have dozens of his books sitting in the corners or donated to our local libraries from book games. So I don't think he's going to have a problem at all with 55,000. I think he could have done 100,000. And I think I wouldn't be surprised if he does that next. But they did outline a little post about how to get them. I think we can go through that if folks are curious here. So they're calling it a friends list. It's not a white list. You can get on the white list through essentially a book games raffle. So you've got a window of time here to pick up book games. They've got their own marketplace for that, where you can buy those. It's on their token trove.
Yeah, through Immutable X.
Exactly. So the snapshot is
April 5th.
April 5th. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's coming up. About 26% of holders will randomly get selected to make the friends list for VeeFriends 2. And then from there they go on. Once you pass the snapshot, you're on the friends list. At that point, you can sell your book games. And that'll put you on deck for the 32,000 friends list sale. And I don't know if they've got the price on this page.
I don't think that he said it yet. No, but I would guess it's probably somewhere.
Here we are.
Above, it's probably 1,000, under 1,000.
Under 1,000, yeah.
So yeah, I was gonna say it's probably going to be over 0.1 ETH if I were to guess.
It's going to be a decent raise. 33,000 times 0.2, 0.3.
Oh yeah.
But
I mean, how much did he raise on the physical books? Like he probably got a lot of those because he had to buy 12 of them. So it was about pretty much the same. One NFT was about, I don't know, few 250, $300, I think is what it came out to. Because it was about $20 a book. So yeah, I think this will be interesting to watch. As you said, like he's such a big name in the space and people are going to buy it just because it's him. People want to be involved. Pretty much anything that he's created has been successful. And I mean, 0.4, I think, is the floor right now for the book games around that in Ethereum. Obviously, the VeeFriends themselves have a massive floor. So pretty much anything that he is saying is mine. Obviously, VCon is going to be coming up, and I'm sure he's going to all these other NFT events.
Yeah, so I mean, this is going to be a guess war for whatever is left for public sale. If there is, there's just going to be some real demand for this one. So I'd say I'll certainly be looking into this. I've got a few book game tokens. I might look to pick up maybe a few more, but this seems like a pretty good one to go after.
Yeah, cool. And then another point I wanted to bring up is we've had some like celebrities coming out recently, just in general. Sia, the artist Sia, came out as one of the Medicis.
Mm-hmm.
Bianca de Medici, who is calling herself the granddaughter of Cosimo. So what do you think of this lore to it? And I mean, Snoop Dogg and Sia have just been buying up NFTs all this time, and without people knowing, they want to be, I guess, Sia's kind of always that style of being in the shadows anyway.
I've talked to a few folks who have had conversations with Sia about this, and apparently it's the real deal. She's been in the space and buying NFTs for a while. I think even around in the early 17,
like crypto
and before CryptoKitties, and before, and actually specifically the person I talked to said she was wearing this quilt dress when that person had a chance to talk with her, and this quilt has all the different NFTs that she owns kind of patched together. So, I mean, it feels real. Another celebrity in the space with, it seems like has good intentions. I think this is only a good thing. She has a huge following, and it seems like her mission is to help onboard people into the NFT space. And she's already alluded to that from her Twitter. So I'm all for it.
Yeah. It'll be cool to watch how that one turns out, and just in general, like who else are Medicis that we don't know about that are going to start coming out.
They're going to unveil more.
Yeah, you can see on the side there's 3 that they're suggesting you to follow right there. I wonder how many are going to be real, and that's what ends up being sour with some of this stuff, is then like people come out and fake and pretend like they're someone. So that's the downside of it. And then the other one is Beanie. He's back, and he's trying to the Beanie versus Farouk battle is kind of interesting as well. I don't know if you saw, he had that post today.
Yeah, let's get to that.
And I guess, let's talk about this quickly. He's kind of going after the villains in the space, which is funny as someone that is considered a villain to Benny. But he's planning on doing a new drop that's going to be a free to mint, and it's going to be from this Looks Labs that we've seen before as being announced, and he's kind of just going after Farouk specifically, it seems like, which I don't know. I guess that's just his plan here. What's sort of your take on the way Beanie has been this past week?
Yeah, I'm almost speechless. So yesterday he had the poster with Putin on it, and then today it's Farouk. So it's Putin to Farouk. I've got questions. Is this all for engagement farming? Beanie is a master engagement farmer. Of anyone on Twitter, he might be singularly the best. So, I mean, it's working. We're talking about it, and I could absolutely see Farouk maybe being in on this. Who knows behind the scenes? But man, I was surprised to see Farouk up on the poster here as the villain in this story arc. He's got my attention. That's a fact, and it's a free mint.
It's good quality art too.
Yeah, some thought and time went into this.
Yeah.
So
I just think if it's going to be a free mint, it's that thing's going to go fast. It's going to be hyped. Yeah. Everyone's still going to come out for Beanie. Doesn't matter. I mean, it's crazy. He takes a couple weeks off, and people aren't against him as much anymore. Some people say that you still need him in the space in general, which is kind of interesting.
It's funny how that works. Just things go horribly wrong for you. Just take a month off and then come back and do a free mint, and then everyone will like you. But so some people are already speculating on in-game and Look Labs. So Look Labs does have a mint coming up here, either this weekend or early next week, the 13th and 14th.
Yeah.
And this is, a 420 weed metaverse narrative project. So that's kind of the story here. They're selling their buds as green passes. They're 0.042 ETH here. You can find some details on the page here. A lot of people are speculating that the Look Labs owners will get first access to the in-games free mint. So, this could all be a bit of a marketing ploy to drive attention to Look Labs here. If so, it's working.
That you have to pay for. Yeah.
It's working, but 0.042, for access to this in-game, I'm probably going to pay it, but it's definitely something to look into here. We got a few more days to try to figure it out.
Yeah, that would be a good one to watch just in general, because there's going to be people on Twitter that come out and still just hate Beanie and are going to try to flood it and talk it down and be like, did you guys forget who this was? And that sort of idea. So that'll be one to watch. It looked like that was the pre-sale Sunday in public on Monday. So that'll probably be one that we'll be able to talk about on Monday as well.
Yeah, so, absolutely. It's going to be a top story, I think.
Yeah. Cool. So I think that's pretty much what we were trying to get through today. Definitely, if you're watching and you're interested in stuff you want us to talk about on Monday, either leave that in the comments or you can join the Lucky Trader Discord and that sort of thing, or reach out to us on Twitter. We're pretty good about responding to those. So yeah, I think it's a little higher spirits at this point in time in the week than I think earlier in the week. People were pretty down, but definitely excited to see how this goes through on the weekend, because that's always the time where if things start to spike, like that's when they'll start heating up, when people are not in the office and whatnot during the week, and then the weekend you're around by the computer and whatnot. So definitely check out Monday. We'll be back and talk about the week in NFTs for next week. And then besides that, good luck out there if you're minting any of this stuff or trying to go off of these projects that we showed you today. So thanks again. We'll see you guys next week.